Hello, you're listening to Hibs Talk. I'm your host as always, Gav. Joining me today is Dave.
Alright.
And we're going to be joined by a few other Hibs fans today as we're doing a phone-in.
Not done one in ages.
I know, it has been too long. I'm really lazy at organising them. They just to take a bit, you have to put out the post on the forums and on social media and get folk get in touch, and then you've got to organise times, and I'm just really lazy, Dave.
Yeah, really. And you're the most unorganised guy I've ever seen.
Not today.
Nah.
It's a phone-in, so I've got to be organised.
We should hear them every week, because normally I come to your house and everything, you're like, the mics aren't even plugged in. Like they're all lying in a bag or something, and you're like getting all set up, and I'm like, mate, you've been knowing I'm coming here all day. So well done.
Yeah. So obviously we're going to be chatting to some fans about the St Mirren game, the upcoming games, how Hibs have done this season, and also a couple of transfer. I know a couple of people want to talk about the transfer window as well. With that still open for a few more weeks. But how are you getting on, Dave? How's your weekend been?
Been alright, mate. I was a wee bit hungover yesterday. Had a wee bev on Saturday. Two of us went to the pub, so we're technically within the 3 household thing, but that's not allowed, so we just got it squeezed in. It was booked for a while anyway for my mate's birthday, so it was good. But, the pints were that way they just go down quite well, and I was like, I didn't really want to be rough on my last day of my holiday. I was a wee bit. But so I missed all the football. Just kept checking my phone, and Hibs it felt like Hibs had scored, they'd scored 3, but I was like, yes, it's 1, yes, it's 2, and I honestly don't think I checked my phone for ages, and I was like,
well, it's a good thing we've got folk phoning in today to chat about the game since you've not seen it.
No, we just watched the highlights.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen snippets, like I've seen Porteous' handball and that. He looks like, I got taught that move in PE when we were doing volleyball. I think that's called, is it a pike? I don't know what it's called. Somebody can. I don't know. It's a move anyway.
Any volleyball enthusiasts, let us know at HFC Talk.
Yeah.
What that move's called that Porteous done. But we're going to get on with it. We're going to start with David today. And we had a chat with him about the St Mirren game. So joining us now is David. How you doing, David?
Not too bad, guys. How are you?
Yeah, good.
I'm good, mate. Cheers.
So what was your thoughts on the St Mirren game?
Personally, for me, I was thinking, the result 3-0. St Mirren were building a good team, and I think there was something at the start of the season about their chairman kind of got laughed at when they said they expect to challenge the top 6, but they've made some decent signings, some good established players in the league, and I thought it'd be very tough going up there, and to be fair, I thought Hibs played well enough to win. So I'm delighted with that. I thought it'd be really tough, but I'm absolutely delighted we went up there and got the 3 points. Still won every game away from home, I think. So yeah, happy to keep it going on.
We seem to be better away for him, eh?
I know.
Why is that?
Don't know. I must be putting them off when up the press pit. But what was your thoughts on the overall performance, David?
I thought we were the better team. I don't think that says much of St Mirren. I think there were some moments in the game where they came forward and it looked like they had quite a bit of space, had some good chances, a couple of free kicks, I think. Made Rocky make a save and then his point blank save. So I thought St Mirren looked alright coming forward. I just thought the whole game in itself, it wasn't slick, didn't really flow a lot. There was a lot of things, missed time jumping for headers and silly bounces and clearances and things like that. I was just looking at it and I was thinking, I was expecting that from a team that are challenging for third, fourth in Scotland like us. I thought we'd maybe be a bit slicker, but at the end of the day, we were good enough. I thought Newell came back off his doubters last week. I was one of them from the Aberdeen game. I think when he gets a chance to play football, or on the deck, I think he's brilliant when he does, and he was brilliant on the day for me. So.
Do you think he's better in the middle then? Because he said that he's happier that he's been moved to the middle and he thinks he's playing better football in that now. Do you think? I think he's better on the left.
You think he's better on the left? I don't know. I've not really seen much of an engine from him. He was signed as a left winger, and there's a couple of times that he played there. I never watched the games. I think he was there. I actually remember one Hamilton last year. I don't know if he missed the sitter. He put in a cracking cross from the left wing, and I was thinking we could have a really good left winger here. But then he kind of got moved into the centre towards the end of last year when we had our injury troubles, and he was decent there. I think it suits him. I don't see him as kind of a left winger that's going to dazzle and step over, and I just don't see him as that kind of player. I think in the middle, where he's allowed to play football, I think one thing I will say is that having Gogic alongside him is ideal for him. Someone that can do the dirtier, kind of getting in tackles, pressing, getting involved. I don't think that's Newell's game at all. I think they complement each other brilliantly. Gogic just gives the ball and he can get forward as well, but lets Newell play the actual football at times. So, but it'll be interesting to see how he does going forward. If he's going to be that kind of player where it's one good game from him, one bad game from him, or if he can kind of use that adversity that he got from the criticism of his performance last week and see if he can, now that he's playing well again, can he keep pushing that on? But it'll be tough for the games that we've got coming up. So.
And obviously looking back to the morning game, obviously they had quite a difficult situation the night before and things like that, and obviously having to get a goalkeeper in, Zlamal coming in on loan. What was your thoughts on Zlamal's performance?
Well, to be fair, I think the Hearts friends that I've got, I forgive them for supporting them, but they've got what they said is he's quite erratic, and I think I've seen that as occasions where he came rushing out a little bit. He wasn't really. But I don't know if that's just his nature as a goalkeeper from what I've seen of him at Hearts, or if it's just the fact that he met his teammates for the first time, the morning of the game, and probably didn't even know most of their names. So it's important to have that partnership. I just think for the first goal for me, I know it maybe takes a little bit of a nick and it kind of hits off him, but I think he's kind of got to do it. Kind of goes through him a little bit, and I think if that's Marciano, I think we're going mad. I think if that goes through Marciano, folk are shouting, we need a new number one, this, that, and the next thing. But I think Newell's goal, a really nice goal, kind of in the corner. I don't think he really had much to do in terms of that. And the third one, just a really high looping cross to the back post. The conditions were getting a bit whirly by then, but you'd probably still be asking, if Martin Boyle's going to head at the back post and you're the goalkeeper, you're probably hanging your head in shame because he's not known for his bullet headers. So I don't think it was like St Mirren would have won if he hadn't thrown anything in there. I don't think it was anything like that. He came in, done a job, steady enough with his kicking. They challenged us a bit from long punts, up the park, and because Albika up front, and then that Dennis, gave us a little bit of a torrid time with the long balls. So Zlamal just kept doing that, and they were working. So I think it was a decent enough 7-day signing. I know it got a bit of backlash from the Hearts fans and whatever, but I think it was decent enough, and they'll have their keepers back and available. But I just think it's weird how a team in the Premiership, they had Langfield on the bench, but could they not have just brought a kid up? He's a sub keeper, he won't play, and it's a good experience being around with the first team squad. I struggle to think that they've not got more than 4 keepers that are ready to play a game at a Premiership club. I just think it's mad.
The thing I didn't get about Langfield on the bench was surely he's training with the goalkeepers. Surely he's in close proximity with the goalkeepers if he's their coach.
To be honest, like I said, that if Zlamal came in anyway and they could have chucked someone else on the bench, like a kid or whatever, it would have made complete sense for Langfield just for all doubt. So
getting back to Hibs a bit more, I mean, you spoke about a couple of mistakes in the performance, a couple of things that worried you. How do you feel about those sort of mistakes going into Celtic and Rangers in our next 2 games, or Rangers and Celtic, obviously?
It's just kind of the big thing that worries me. See, St Mirren were getting a lot of space, and I know that Hibs were more going forward against a team like St Mirren, so they're going to have that space at the back. But the amount of space, with all due respect to St Mirren's right winger, or their left winger, he's no Ryan Kent. If you give Ryan Kent that much space, he's going to absolutely punish you. So I don't know what the plans are in terms of next week, if Jack Ross is going to plan to be a little bit more tight or whatever to try and stop that space. But I've seen that it's kind of one shot for you, one shot for you, one for us. And against the Old Firm, Rangers are the best team in the league right now. I think they've not conceded a goal, 7 wins. They've looked to have really got into their form, and that's with a below par Morelos, 2 new strikers. You're just looking at it and you're thinking, if Hibs can get anything from that game, it'll be really good. I'm just more kind of looking for no big negatives. If we can come out of that game with no gaping negatives and kind of nothing that makes you think, oh God, we're in an absolute crisis here, I'll be happy, because I don't think anyone can expect us to get, a point, 3 points would be nice if we can maybe beat one of them, but I think looking at it realistically, I don't see us getting any form of result. And that's not, maybe is me being pessimistic to an extent, but realistic as well. I think you've just got to look at the gulf, and the gulf is now, ridiculously huge, especially with Rangers signing. So,
Dave, your thoughts on the double header against Old Firm? How are you feeling against going into them?
I agree with David. It's back, innit? The gap between it's now the Old Firm and the rest. So it's been away for 8 years now, and that's it back officially. So I would expect. Didn't get me wrong. I want to beat Rangers so much. It's unbelievable. But I do think that we'll probably struggle to get a point out of the next two games. But I'm the same. I want performance though. I'll not accept a below par performance, because then it does just kind of undo some of your hard work that you've done in it. Because a lot of negativity will come. You know what Hibs fans are like? They moan. They moan.
Yeah.
I moan. Stephen moans. Everyone moans.
Then again, so
when
basically,
something's
then he
wrong.
gives Stephen ammunition, is what you're saying.
Yeah. So
I've watched. I know that people can like to moan and things, but I think just usually before it used to be, if you had an Old Firm back to back, you'd fancy to get something off Rangers a bit more, because Celtic were that solid. But now I'm looking at the games and I'm thinking, if we're getting a point, we're getting it off Celtic. Out of Europe, they've made some signings, but they're still like, there's not a real clarity. Whereas at Rangers, everyone's kind of pulling the same direction. They're playing well. The fans are on side. The players are there. Everyone's kind of, pulling the same direction. So I feel like if we're ever going to get a point out of those games, it'll be Celtic. But the one thing I will say is that the best of the rest, Aberdeen are obviously a couple of games behind because of the whole hateful eight situation or whatever they're calling it. But we've got a 5 point gap on people below that. Motherwell have had a really poor start. Livingston as well don't look the same team as they were last year. I've seen he signed Stokes, but he's not got a squad for them yet, which I think is baffling. I'm looking, I think we've got a 5 point gap on teams like that, and I'm thinking at this point it doesn't look as significant, but you'd have killed for that last year the way we started. We were looking like we were going down with Hearts last year up till Christmas. There was one point where we played more games than we had points at November time. So I think we just kind of have to acknowledge the gap, but be grateful for what Jack Ross done since he came in, which is kind of really elevate us and you make us a tough team to play against.
We speak about the gap between Celtic and Rangers and everyone else. Do ourselves and Aberdeen now have to create a gap, like not just this season, but every season, like establish ourselves as third and fourth, compete and have a gap between us and fifth place?
I think that's got to be the aim, especially for a club our size, a capital club, great facilities. I think that if there's ever, it's something we should do, and I think if there's ever going to be a chance to do it, it is this year, with the way that teams like Motherwell have started. Kilmarnock didn't start the best, but they picked up a little bit recently. Dundee United as well, they started off decent. I thought we had a really tough game against when we played away. They'd be up there, but they've kind of slacked a little bit. So all the teams, bar maybe ourselves, results-wise, there's been a couple of iffy performances, but we've got results. But results-wise, they've been really, topping and tailing. And I think that, you've got Celtic and Rangers, as you'd expect, to kind of be up there. Aberdeen came back from their whole disruption, and they've looked really good since they've came back. Really solid. I think Ross McCrory, someone at Hibs tried to go for him because he's looked an absolute player since he's joined Aberdeen. So I think that's something Hibs should definitely be doing, and if there's a time to do it, it's definitely this year.
I agree, because you should never regress. You should always be trying to improve season on season. And what we do is we have a record season and then shoot ourselves in the foot. Something will go to shit, and then it does. It absolutely does. And then you hear a couple of seasons of almost like turmoil or being bang average, and then you'll hear another good year. So we should be trying to to kind of what I mean, keep going and taking advantage of it. And we should be making a gap. Mm-hmm.
See, just on that regression, sorry, I was just the biggest thing I'd say for regression is Lennon's first year back when we were back in the league. The second half of that year, Canberry, McLaren, Allen, that midfield of a fully fit and firing Bartley, but a good Bartley, the best Bartley that we probably had, because he did fade off a little bit, unfortunately, but I still love him. We've had McGeoch in there at his best. McGinn was just unbelievable for Hibs. Allen at his best in the 10. Canberry and McLaren, when they were two unknowns, firing in the goals. You look at that team and you're thinking, yeah, even had Barker there who couldn't start, Boyle who you've not got started, and you're thinking, there's a real chance there to push on. And then Lennon went, in October the year after, and then we were struggling, and you're just thinking, just such a wasted opportunity, because that team was like Hibs should be, you know, just on the cusp of Rangers and Celtic with the players that we have, and you know, the manager, the attitude of not accepting, you know, always want to be the winner, not accept a serial winner, the winner's mentality, and we just regressed since then, obviously with Heckingbottom. But I feel now's the chance. Jack Ross has come in. I think I've seen that he'd won the most points out of the old firm since he'd been in. So, you know, he's always doing something right. It's a chance for us to kind of push on, like I said, and kick us into those European contention places and establish ourselves as that club. I just really hope that we do it better than the last time under Lennon the first year.
And I think it's one of those big what ifs. Is Lennon, for me, it seemed that Hibs weren't matching his ambitions, and then obviously we've got Ron Gordon, and now even in this current market, we're still spending money on Nisbet. We've got Doige and stuff. I wonder if Ron had came in 2 years earlier, or if Lennon had held out a bit longer, one of the two. If, you know, we could have seen something if Lennon would have stuck around, because I think he just got frustrated.
Lennon would have went to Celtic, because
he would have went to Celtic anyway. So
Celtic whore. So
I think the thing with Lennon is I absolutely loved him, and like, you know, the way that he spoke. But we have to remember at the time, you know, he had Hibs were 8th, I think, but 8th or 9th at the time, just lost to Motherwell. You know, so obviously something was. It's not just happened overnight. It wasn't we were second one day and then 1 week we were 9th and then he's gone. And obviously the circumstances in which the controversy in which he left didn't really lend themselves to it either. But it is that question of, you know, the club were trying to, you know, take things for the financial security, having to, you know, move people on and temporarily halt the academy, and now we're able to make signings. You know, we've got Jamie Murphy, Nisbet, 6-figure fee. You know, they're really investing, and you think if that was under Lennon at that time, you know, could Hibs have pushed on? But I think as much as I'm talking about, you know, that lovely Lennon team and, you know, the good times, we have to just look at the now and realise that we're in good times now as well. It's just about, can we get to better times under Gordon? And I think that if he continues to invest and smartly invest like the transfer team have, you know, over the course since they've been here, there's been an odd, you know, one or two that haven't worked out. But with the usual success rate, I think, you know, there's a really good chance here.
Cool. Right, we'll finish up there. So just the final thing for the Rangers game. What's your score prediction for the Rangers game?
My heart, because I can never ever say that Hibs are going to lose a game on camera, but I'm going to go with 2-2. I'm going to go for a Nisbet double, one up penalty.
Kevin's really bad. I wouldn't take that now, because I want to fucking beat them. I want to beat them, but obviously I probably would take 2 each. But one of my mates listens to this, he's a Rangers fan, so I ain't taking it. These 3 points. Aye.
Right. Cheers again, David, and we'll get you on again soon. Cheers.
Cheers, David.
Brilliant.
So joining us now is Leon. How you doing, Leon?
Great, thanks. How you doing?
Yeah, good. So what was you wanting to chat about today?
Just let's talk about Hibs, eh? That's what we're here for. I think just everything that's been happening for the start of the season and how well I feel the squad's progressed, and how Jack Ross has dealt with the rotation of the squad as well. So I feel like he has done that on a week-to-week basis, changing the formation, changing the structure about who we're playing against. So I find that's a huge positive for Hibs now, having a manager like that who's not just trying to stick to the one system all the time.
Yeah, there's been quite a bit of rotation, and even like say in games as well. I mean, that Kilmarnock game we changed formations quite
Definitely.
a lot. So seven games in, how do you review the first 7 games?
Well, obviously, everybody's been talking about the quality and that, but I think as soon as you take the aspect of fans out, driving people on that and giving them that wee bit extra edge about the game and the extra bite in it, you're not going to get that. But I can't argue with the results. Obviously, the defeat to Aberdeen was disappointing. That's really the only aspect. Aberdeen done what they do. They go ahead and then ground the game out. Having the fans there might have made a big difference to Hibs as well, because I felt a few games last season that even when Hibs went behind, they had that bite about them and a wee bit extra that they could push on. But as soon as the fans are in the ground, it makes a big difference. I think even the Motherwell game, there was just something missing, and that's whenever they started asking the questions about the midfielder and even players going forward about having that wee bit extra spark. I feel like players like Joe Newell and that all bring that to the team. Especially Gogic in there doing all the hard work. It does like guys like him who I feel he's a really class operator, and I think that he's the kind of guy that can really bring out assists and create chances for the side.
So we just had David on as well, and I asked him the same question, but I get the sense that you're a Joe Newell fan.
I am. I mean, I'm not going to say I'm like if I've seen him out the squad and Hibs were winning, I wouldn't be disappointed. I found he was one of the types of players that when fans looked at him, because he never had that lightning pace, and obviously when he started off with Heckenbottom, it looked like the pace of the game was a total different style to the way he was suited. And I just feel because he's got such a good touch and he's got great vision, and I just think that when he's on his game, I think he's a really, really, really good part of the side. But again, I wouldn't say I'm a massively huge fan of him, but I think he's one of the players that I think he's going to really come onto a game, and the fitter he gets in the morning, the longer he's in the side, I think you're going to see a really top player there.
Yeah,
that's just a personal view for me.
No, I would agree. Like, I just hope that it's no flashes like we've spoke about, and then you get, because we've had that with midfielders like Slivka and Horgan that are like good for a couple of games and that. But so you think Newell's better in the middle, or?
Well, I find him. I quite like him out. I thought he would be better out on the left, because I found that when he was out on the left and allowing a fullback to come overlap him, that when he was cutting inside, he was causing a lot of teams trouble. Like, I'm sure it was like the game, like, it was either Motherwell or Aberdeen last season, I can't remember, and we beat them 3-0, because I think we beat them 3-0, they both on 3-0, I'm not sure. But I think, I felt like I think it was a Motherwell game, and I think he was coming inside, and they were really struggling how to deal with the cutting inside and then cutting balls through the middle. And I think he's one of those that he's not a fast winger. So the Scottish game usually has, when the people are out wide, is to get him down the byline and put crosses in. But I think with Doig there as well, who's obviously as soon as he opens his legs up, he can really get down that line. That if you had someone like him cutting inside and letting Doig overlap, it could be an effective way going forward.
I would be interested to see it, because I mean, Doig this season has been getting, bombing up and down, obviously a lot of energy, bombing up and down that left wing, overlapping a lot more than what Stevenson's been doing the last couple of seasons, especially last season after, I think Stevenson wasn't 100% after not having a full pre-season, but he wasn't getting forward as much, he wasn't overlapping as much, so I would be interested to see Newell back out on the left with Doig overlapping him instead.
Definitely, I totally agree, and I think thing with Stevenson as well is I think that the defence there was a lot happening in that defence last year, and the midfield was obviously missing the wee bit of what Gogic has given you, the wee bit of cover, which I've seen Hanlon pushing out a lot more now, because he's got that cover, so he can make his rampaging runs that he was doing a couple of seasons back. And I think that obviously that the defending aspect with Stevenson, he was getting caught out a lot because him and Hanlon were obviously getting dragged around a lot with not having the midfield cover. So I think that's maybe where we've seen him missing out. But Doig, for me, he's showed everything he can do throughout, like for the moment he started, and he just, if he gets better, we've got a serious player on our hands, I think.
There's been a lot of talk about how improved the defence is, and I think you've hit a lot of nail on the head with a lot of the reasons why it's massively improved. And I was seeing something about during the week about Porteous for Scotland. I think it was the Rangers report that had put up a thing about his stats.
Aye.
What's your thoughts on Hanlon as well, though? They know each other well. They know each other's game. We're playing Scott McKenna, a midfielder at centre back for Scotland. Is there maybe McTominay? Sorry, what did I say?
McKenna.
Aye. Well, McKenna did play, but obviously McTominay, the midfielder. Is there an argument that Hanlon should be in that debate conversation as well?
Look, I think it's one of the things that people always like sort of laugh at you a wee bit when Hibs fans come up with the Paul Hanlon for Scotland chat, but he's so consistent, and I feel that when he's on his game, there was a couple of seasons ago before he got injured and stuff, I thought he had a great shout and just couldn't get in the side. And for me, Hanlon and Porteous together are working really, really well. They talk to each other a lot. You notice it during the game. If someone's coming deep, someone's dropping in. Obviously, they're not leaving themselves as exposed as the team was being left last season. But I think why not? You're putting players if you're shuffling players like McTominay into the centre half position just because he plays centre mid for Man United, it's a different game. It's a different game. So I think why no? I didn't think he shouldn't. I didn't think he should be overlooked anyway. Put it that way.
What motivations have players got to get? But like, okay, I'm going to put in a performance here and that, and hopefully get a call up for Scotland. Like they're putting, like what you've just said there, Leon. They're playing McTominay centre half. Like Hanlon must be like, I've had a blinding start to this season. Like if I have no chance now, he's as well just blocking Steve Clarke's number. The SFA just block it. Like, they're never going to bother. Like, and then if they do, then Bolt, you've had your chance. I've been playing at my skin. So it should be merit.
Aye, no, you're totally spot on. I think if something happened to us like it happened to the Czech Republic, I think you'd find somebody like Hanlon right in there. You know what I mean? And they wouldn't. I don't think they'd think twice about putting a guy like Hanlon in centre half if there was a total squad reshuffle because of COVID. But like you say, how can you be playing like as he's playing, keeping clean sheets and obviously not conceding from open play? So, and how can you keep looking at that and thinking, oh well, just keep getting overlooked. And obviously he's getting on, but defenders, obviously the older they get, the wiser they get. And I think Hanlon's game's always been on, for me, his positioning and the way he reads the game. So I can't see why he wouldn't be letting me a shout. But you know what it's like. I don't think he's a big enough name now for that Scotland squad as well. And McTominay is obviously a huge name in the English game as well. So they're sort of, I feel like sometimes the Scottish national team they sort of just shove people in because of the club they play for and not the actual ability of them.
Yeah.
You find that a lot, I think, anyway.
Yeah, there's folk that I'm going to say it, even Andy Robertson, I think, has yet to properly do it for Scotland. Fantastic for Liverpool, but we're trying to fit him and Tierney in. Tierney's done quite well for Scotland. To me, I'd just play Tierney at left back and make Andy Robertson get the limited opportunities enough to throw it. But he's the captain, so he has to play and stuff. And to me, he's never done it. What he does do for Liverpool.
I think if Andy Robertson was playing for West Ham or something like that, Kieran Tierney would be playing ahead of him every day of the week.
Yeah.
For me. Again, don't get me wrong, he's a fantastic, exceptional player, but he's not done it for Scotland at the levels he does for Liverpool. And obviously he's got the better players around him, and the system changes. But still, even the other night against the Czech Republic, I thought he looked slow. I thought he looked a bit out of position a lot. And then I watched him last night against Leeds United, and it was the same. He looked off his game on a personal level, Andy Robertson. So, and I think, like you say, he's a Champions League winner, Premier League winner, plays for Liverpool, and he's obviously captain, so his position is sort of given,
Yeah,
and that's it.
No, exactly. So the window's, obviously this is a bizarre window, so it's open for another wee while. Is there anything you think that we need to maybe like a position we need to bring in?
I think midfield, obviously, everybody's talking about midfield, right? So I would probably like to see another centre mid in there, but a wee bit different style. I mean, you could have everybody's talking about runners and stuff, but then we had Slivka, who never done it for us. But he was a bit of a runner and had a lot of movement, but never really done much at times. He had a great game and then he'd have 6 terrible games. But he, somebody a bit more mobile in the middle of the park that's able to carry the ball. But for me, as well, maybe a striker just to put pressure on Dodge Nisbet and Jamie Gullan, who I think should be getting opportunities, because I felt that when we went with one up top against was it the Motherwell game? I'm not sure if the Scott Allen came in, and I felt that Jamie Gullan should have maybe been given the nod, because again, you've seen again what happens when Hibs play 2 up top now with the work rate that Doyce puts in and the space that it's created. I think the 2 up top causes teams a lot of trouble, I feel. So maybe a striker, maybe a midfielder, but see, to be honest, genuinely I feel that if the window closes, we keep the squad we've got and no one comes in or out, I'd still be quite happy, because I feel that Jack Ross has got he knows what he's getting out of the squad, and he knows how to get results out of them now. Obviously getting the quality football in there has got to be the big thing, because that's when fans will start getting arsey.
Nah, I agree. Like fans, I'm not gonna lie, I'm one of them. I want to watch. I think everybody wants to watch attractive football. I just didn't want to be bored. But I think you probably you didn't want to be in Aberdeen, exactly. So I think you've got a point. Yeah. you've got a point with the fans and that though. Like there maybe would be energy would be a bit different to our fans there. So we just need to wait and see. But I just want them all to realise that we're all still there. We're all watching on the telly. So get fucking move. Like
I know. But even every level has been like that as well. Even at international level, you've seen it's like even I can't Leeds United and Liverpool game on it was obviously intended. That was two very, very attacking sides with two brilliant coaches behind them. But I think majority of games have been slow. It's all been spells of teams dominating, and then another team dominates a wee bit, and then like passing. And I think the vibe of being friendly, and it must be difficult. It's like going to your work and not having your boss anywhere near you for a week. You know what I mean? You're not going to be on top of it for the whole week. You're going to slack off a wee bit. But
I like that. I love an analogy. I love an analogy, and it was absolutely brilliant.
It's like being in primary. It's like being in class at school and then the teacher nips out for a day. It'd be absolutely pandemonium.
Good point.
You know what I mean? But so I think, like I say, the level's going to get there. But see, to be honest, the way this year, I think personally, is about getting into Europe. And if we get into Europe by doing it a certain way, obviously, if it goes on for a long time, it'll be frustrating. But the end goal of it all is about getting Hibs into a position in Europe, like Aberdeen have been doing season after season after season, getting in that finance constantly, and just making that bigger step forward with signings, I think.
Would you take that, like getting into Europe every year to play like Aberdeen?
No, I wouldn't take it. Nah, not every year. I'd want to get back to the way the year is this year and the way the world is. I think it's about picking up results and having a good season on paper, and just getting through it. And then when the world gets back to normality and people are back in the grounds and things like that, I think it's going to be more about let's get the seats off the bums, let's get seats on the bums, but like people stacking, let's get the crowd excited and things like that. And I think Jack Ross has got to be a results man, for me. I think he said that as well, that he's want to play a good game, but he's going to want to pick up results. So that's the big thing. But I wouldn't be happy with it overall. If we went the whole season, I'd be like, this is Aberdeen.
So just to finish up then, obviously we're talking about the season and stuff. What's your hopes for the season? Where are you predicting Hibs to finish this season?
Well, I done your prediction thing when you put it out, and I say third as but I get the happy clapper stuff chucked at you on Twitter all the time. So I'm always like a glass half full kind of guy. But I think if we keep getting into that top four, it's going to be a great season for us. Same as usual, try and get to a cup final as well. Maybe that'd be great. And just pick up, knock Hearts out of competition. That'd be great. Usually, can beat Hearts, get them in the cup and beat them. That's obviously we'll go to the semi-final, and just that's as long as I think European place would be brilliant for Hibs this year, and that would push us on a wee bit more. Keep Jack Ross in the seat, and I think he's the man to take us forward. So, that'd be a positive for me.
I keep forgetting about the semi-final against Hearts.
Okay, and I, to be honest, I only remembered about when I started talking about it there. Knocking Hearts out the cup. I was like, I forgot we've actually got them in a cup.
What happens with Europe with that? So, because usually
they just gave it to the league positions, and that was it.
Yeah, they gave it away.
Right, okay.
Aye.
We'll just get to
there's two Scottish Cups this year, so aye. Right, we'll finish up there because we've got more calls and stuff. So thanks again, Leon.
Cool.
I appreciate you taking the time.
Thanks.
Class,
looking forward to listening to it. Have a good night.
Hi. Speak to you later, mate.
Cheers, Liam.
Boys. Cheers,
man. Bye.
So joining us now is Stephen. How you doing, Stephen?
I'm okay, Gav. Thanks. Yourself?
Yeah, I'm good. So I understand you want to talk to us about the season so far and also the transfer window. So what's your thoughts been on the season so far?
To be honest, the season so far, it's kind of went the same way as it ended prematurely back in March. We've been getting points from games that we've not played particularly well in, and probably not in a similar manner to how we played under Heckenbottom, because that was pretty poor. But we're still not playing the attractive, free-flowing Hibs way that we all want to see. But the difference between Heckenbottom and Ross is Ross has instilled a belief into the team that if we go down, we can come back, or if we go in the lead, we tend to be able to keep on to the lead to either get a draw or to get the win. So that's probably the main difference. Saturday was a good result, good performance as well. It kind of papers over a few of the cracks because I think pre-international break, the result against Aberdeen wasn't particularly great. The performance, the statistics in terms of possession, chances created, wasn't great at all. But the fact it took a penalty to beat us, it kind of is testament to how Aberdeen have played at Easter Road over the last couple of years since we came back up. But that kind of brought an end to a good run in terms of avoiding defeat and picking up points. And despite the points tally, I would say people with the performances, they weren't particularly looking at the positives. They were looking more at the negatives, which we understand because it wasn't a great performance. Overall, 7 games into, I've only conceded 3 goals, none from open play, with the points tally on the board still sitting second place, albeit with Celtic playing again on Wednesday. I would have probably bitten your hand off at the start of the season, to be honest. I've taken that, so I'm fairly happy so far.
So, I mean, looking back at the St Mirren game, like I say, I know you sort of touched on it there about the performance. I'll be honest, in the group chat, I got a bit of stick because I was being a bit, not negative, just sort of saying, like he sort of says, partially maybe the midfield wasn't great. We created a lot of chances from out wide, which is great, but it reminded me of the Livingston performance. And I think obviously the goalkeeper had a bit of a mare. What was your thoughts on the St Mirren performance in terms of the style of football?
Again, it's still not the free-flowing attacking play that we would maybe like, but I think a lot of that's down to Ross still maybe not having the full squad at his disposal in terms of signings he would have possibly liked. I thought St Mirren, a bit like last season, they looked okay on the eye, but they had very, very little going forward. So I think generally we played the game quite well. We got a couple of early goals that settled us down a little bit. In the past, under Heckenbottom, we probably would have went 1-0 up and maybe sat a bit more on that. But after the first goal, which was brilliant striker play from Nisbet, I actually thought we settled into the game really well. In the second goal, the whole move, the cut back and the finish was fantastic. And I think after that, excluding the penalty that was about as nailed on a penalty as you could see, I actually thought we rode the challenge of St Mirren pretty well. Rockies had maybe, I think, 1 save when it was 2-0, but even if they go in, we're still 2-1 ahead. And, with this season the way it's went, we don't seem to be sitting back on that maybe as much as we would have in the past. And I think generally we handled all of St Mirren's pressure pretty well. And we're even pushing for a 4th in the second half as well. I think Zlamal made a good save from Boyle. But really, I actually think we handled it pretty well. Gogic coming back was a huge difference. He was obviously missing from the Aberdeen game, which was absolutely ridiculous that he was not allowed to play considering he had tested negative. But he came back, added that bit of stability, and I think with him in the side, we do look a much stronger unit in midfield. And I think that was the key to it. We had that strong defensive base there with the back, the defenders, and obviously Rocky having a sterling season again. But Gogic coming back in, he's made a real difference, and I think that showed on Saturday as well.
And so there seems to be like a theme running through, like when we're speaking to people about results or performance. So are you a results guy, a performance guy? Would you be settled with, so we asked Leon this as well, would you settle with getting Europe every year, playing football like Aberdeen, Derek McInnes style football, or would you rather a bit of performance and maybe you don't finish as high in the league and you don't get the results every week?
Well, anytime I play Football Manager, I always set my team up to play attacking freestyling football. Obviously that doesn't always correspond to victories and results, but I think if you get a hybrid of the two, that would be the perfect scenario. Certainly in my time, I've seen a lot of good Hibs teams over the years that have maybe not pushed on as well as they should have, or they've underachieved. That said, there's nothing better than getting a win. If it's a backs-to-the-wall performance, maybe away to Rangers or Celtic, you get a win, you would take that, but I wouldn't want that every week. But I think that there's much more to the substance rather than the outcome all the time. The way Aberdeen play, I'm sorry, I couldn't sit through that every single week. It's turgid, it's horrendous to watch, and albeit it's getting results and they're getting into European places, but they're doing absolutely nothing when they come up against teams in Europe. So for me to sit through that, I couldn't do that, and I think that shows with Aberdeen's season ticket sales over the last few years. They've went down rather than going up, and I think they've closed off part of the stadium this year as well. So for me, the style of play gets fans in the stadium, and style of play can often get the fans behind the team, and that can then get the team kicking on. So for me, it would be about playing the Hibs way and hopefully being able to add a bit of steeliness and nature that Ross seems to be getting at the team so far. So it probably sits a bit of both, really.
I think there's that sort of thing that a few of the performances, I think like the Dundee United game in particular, it was a very sort of pragmatic sort of smash and grab performance, and there's been a few like that. Maybe not so much the St Mirren game, but I just kind of hope that, I think maybe we've been spoiled a bit in the past, but again we've not got the results with it. I mean, you know, you think back the last few years about, you know, we've had Scott Allen, Henderson, McGinn and things like that, McGeoch all linking up, playing really nice one-touch passing football, high-tempo football and stuff. Obviously the Collins team, the Mowbray team all played really nice stuff. But like say that hybrid. So I mean, I guess that kind of leads us into the transfer market. Do you think there's the squad there in order to do that, or do you think Jack Ross needs more in order to play better football but still get the results?
Yeah, I mean, certainly the last couple of pre-seasons in the summer, we've probably lost more than we've brought in on probably each of the last 3 or 4 years. So in terms of squad depth, I don't think it's quite there, but I don't think it can be there with the financial restrictions that are in place just now. If we can keep our strongest 11 fit and match fit, I think we've got probably on paper at least the third or fourth best team in the league, and that's always, that might sound a bit big-headed and a bit arrogant, but I think in Rocky we've got, outside of Rangers and Celtic, arguably the best keeper in the league, and I think the defence already shown this season that they can. They've certainly added a bit of backbone, which they didn't have last season. We conceded an awful lot of late goals last season. We don't really look like conceding at all from open play just now. And I think with the squad restriction just now in terms of numbers, we need to try and keep as many players match fit as possible. Like I said earlier, with Gogic being out against Aberdeen, I think losing one player really showed that if you take one player out of the team right now, it can have a real big impact on the team. So if we can keep everybody match fit, which I know isn't always going to happen, obviously with Nisbet and Gogic already been out, and Ray Wright's sort of been a bit half fit, half not, a bit like his time at St Johnstone really. If we can keep the majority of the squad fit and match sharp, I think we've got a good chance of pushing on. In terms of the players he's brought in, he's certainly addressed the defensive midfielder berth that we've needed since Milligan and Bartlett both left. Murphy coming in, I think, is a really good bit of business because Horgan was far too inconsistent. He was one of the players that when he'd come off the bench he would make an impact, but he would get a start from that impact and then he wouldn't do much. So I think Murphy coming in, if we can get him match sharp, he'll be a really good signing. Wright still for me, jury's out. I've not seen a huge amount of him in the time at St Johnstone, and when he signed him I had to double check who he actually was, so that's maybe not a great sign for him. And Nisbet, as with his first goal on Saturday, he shows a real striker's predator instinct. So I definitely think over the season he'll get 15-20 goals. And if we can get Doidge back to pre-COVID sharpness as well, I think he'll get 10-15 goals. So between the front two, including Boyle, you're probably looking at 35-40 goals, which could really push us up the league. So I think overall, in terms of the quality, we've certainly signed good quality players. In terms of the numbers, they're maybe still a bit lacking. But ultimately, I think most clubs are going to be in that position.
What do you think we need, like specifically, like position wise? If you were Jack Ross, you had to go out and get a position, and that was it, and that was like, what you were spending your money on. You were only allowed one.
If I was given a magic wand and I was given the option to sign any player, for me it would probably be another defensive midfield type player. Like I said there, because Gogic was out against Aberdeen, that was a real miss, and I know Halberg came in, but that's not really Halberg's role. I think Halberg's maybe a bit better operating a bit further forward. So if we're asking players to step into positions that they've not played recently or they're not comfortable with, that might bite us in the backside as it did against Aberdeen. So for me, I think in defence, if we can get McGregor back into the squad, he's a fantastic stand-in should Ryan or Paul Hanlon get injured. So I think we've got cover there. We've obviously got cover at left back and right back in Stevenson and David Gray if they're both match fit. So, and going forward, I think we've got good options in terms of the wider players, the Murphy and obviously Boyle. You've got Nisbet, Doidge, and it's great to see Shanley getting that a few minutes on Saturday. You've obviously got Jamie Gullen as well. So, for me, the midfield's maybe a little bit light, and certainly from a defensive point of view, that's probably where I'll focus on if there's any money left in the transfer budget.
I'll put this one to you both. I mean, I've seen a lot of people saying that they still feel that we need a striker, but I mean, you mentioned there, Stephen, about the goals that are in this team potentially with, you know, Doidge, with Nisbet, with Gullen, obviously Boyle and Murphy as well. Murphy can play as a striker if need be. and then obviously Shanley and Gullen is coming as well. So I mean, starting with you, Dave. I mean, do you think that's enough? You know, to having the two wingers that can stand in there, the two strikers that are going to start, and then the two young laddies, 6 players that can play in that position.
Aye, well, now that when you put it like that, it does seem like it is enough. But I would still like to see somebody that's going to come and push Nisbet and Doidge, like for a starting place. Cause I think you've named a lot of players there that won't start up front. I think Boyle will always be right, and Dre Wright can't play up top again. I don't think.
No,
I wouldn't do that again. So.
What about yourself, Stephen? Do you think that's enough up top? And would you like to see, you know, I mean, obviously a lot of people noticed that a few weeks ago we switched to the one up top when Nisbet was injured. Would you like to see Gullen give opportunities, get those sort of opportunities to start?
It would be great to see them all getting opportunities, but obviously with the smaller squad that we're operating just now, if players get injured, I don't think there's any choice but to ask them to try and step up. I think we've got a couple of back-to-back League Cup games against lower league opposition in a few weeks' time as well, so it might be an option to possibly start one or two of them then. For me, one up front, I don't really like it. I don't think we've quite got the players to do it. That was probably one of the main things I remember about Heckenbottom's last few months in charge is he would religiously stick with one up front. And Doidge, one of the hardest working strikers in the league, will always drop back to win the headers. But unless you've got proper wide players, which Heckenbottom never seemed to play, there's no real point in playing one up front. So, and again, Dre Wright up front, up top for me just seems daft, especially when you've got a couple of youngsters like Gullen finished the season relatively strongly, got a good goal against Inverness in the Cup. And I would like to personally see younger players getting a bit of a start with the smaller squad that we're operating. So it's great to say we've got 6 strikers there potentially, but whether or not all 6 are ready and good enough remains to be seen, obviously. But with the smaller squad, it should allow them to get some opportunities.
So just sort of finishing up then, I know you sort of mentioned about a midfielder coming in. Do you see us getting somebody in before the transfer window shuts? I think it's sometime in October. Do you see us? I mean, obviously we went for McCrory. Do you still think we'll see somebody else come in before the window shuts?
I suppose it all depends on how much Jack Ross really thinks we need someone else to come in. I would hope that the lack of Gogic being available for the Aberdeen game would be enough for him to go to Ron Gordon and Leanne Dempster and say we need somebody in possibly as cover. Who that will be, I don't obviously know, and I'm not entirely sure how the budget's looking. But I just think in terms of squad depth, that would send a real statement out to the rest of the league. If we can get a good cover for all the main places within the team, I think that would send out a statement. I don't think that's a position that most of the other teams in the league can actually say they're in just now.
Okay, and final question today, Stephen. What's your predictions for the Rangers game at the weekend?
It's a tough one. I mean, certainly in terms of form, I was actually looking at their results this season. I think probably excluding Aberdeen away from home and arguably maybe Livingston away from home in that horrible pitch, they've not had a particularly challenging start to the season. So to have won 7 out of 7, all the plaudits they're getting, it's a bit backhanded because they've not played a huge amount of strong teams. However, that said, to not concede a single goal in 7 games is impressive. The results against them last season were shocking, to be quite honest, and the performance level wasn't anywhere near good enough either. So, and we've obviously struggled in terms of at home. We've only won 1 home game out of 3 this season, so it could be a tough one. I'm an optimist, so I'll say Hibs to win by the odd goal.
Dave?
Oh, I'll take that. I'll take that one right now. I hate them more than. It's hard to actually put into words. Like, you'll need to put the bleep track on if we start talking about Rangers. Like, I really do like them, but
score prediction.
It's the biggest game of the season for me so far.
Well, absolutely, yeah.
The biggest game of the season this season, because Hearts are not there,
right,
is Rangers. Score prediction? 1-0 Hibs.
I'll take that.
I'll go 1-0 Hibs as well. Actually, I fancy us to at least score, and I fancy them not to score, hopefully. So yeah, 1-0 Hibs for me as well.
Fantastic. Cheers for taking the time to speak to us today, Stephen.
No problem. Thanks.
Cheers, man.
And joining us now is Liam. How you doing, Liam?
I'm doing really well, Gav. How are you? All right?
Yeah, I'm good. So I understand you wanted to chat to us about the sort of like season so far and the St Mirren game and stuff. So, what was your thoughts on the St Mirren game?
I mean, it wasn't a complete performance. I think there were more positives than negatives, that's for sure. I think much in the way the rest of the season has gone, I think we've been relatively clinical when we've had chances. I think we've played some good stuff in patches. Probably haven't put together a full 90 minutes yet this season, I think it's fair to say. But I thought, one of those games when you're watching it, never really felt like we were gonna lose it. That kind of confidence, I think, that's been there from the beginning of the season, to be honest. I've never, other than probably the last sort of second half of the Aberdeen game, I've never really felt like we were going to lose a game this season. So there was a lot that was good about it. I thought Joe Newell was really good in midfield. I thought the front two did pretty well together, and the defence was solid again. Defence has been probably the one thing this season that's been consistently well above average. All four of them I thought did really well at the weekend. So it was okay. It was better than okay. It was good.
That's the mental thing, though. That you imagine sitting here like, well, when did the league start? 8 weeks ago. And then you're talking about the defence being the best thing about it when you've just signed Nisbet. You wouldn't have thought that, which is not fair play. Like, Paul Hanlon's took everything that's been said bad about him in this podcast and rammed it right back down our throats. Like, we were just talking to somebody else about Paul Hanlon should maybe be in for a shout for the Scotland squad. Like, what? Like, you would just win that conversation just wouldn't have happened like a couple of months ago, huh?
Aye.
It's good though.
You mentioned about the sort of performance. It wasn't a complete performance. What did you feel was missing from the performance against St Mirren?
I mean, look, we're Hibs fans, right? We've got high standards. I think when we're starting to go 2-3-0 up in games, I think we all have an expectation and a desire to really stamp on the throat of the opponent and go and make it 4-5-6. And I didn't really see that desire in parts of the second half. I think that would be the only criticism. Also didn't, again, and it's probably going to be a recurring theme this season with the way we play, I didn't feel like we completely controlled the midfield, and that might be a reflection of the fact that we only had two of them in there, and Newell and Gogic. So it's just one of them. I think you're instantly looking for flaws. And to be fair, you've got to look pretty hard to find them in the performance, but they were there.
Do you think a change in formation to bring in like Scott Allen in or Hallberg in could change that? Obviously, it sort of affects how if you have to go one up top or something. But do you feel like, say, obviously big games coming up against Celtic and Rangers where we're going to need more control of the midfield? How would you change the going into those two big games?
I'm going to contradict myself here a wee bit and say I probably wouldn't change things for the Celtic and Rangers games, because I think if we go and try and match Rangers or Celtic in the centre of the park, we're not going to dominate the ball against either of those two teams. So actually I would far rather we played the kind of shape we played on Saturday and just accepted that they were going to have the midfield and try and hit them on the counter. And I say accepting that I don't want to see us kind of put an extra body in there just to play against Celtic or Rangers. I think we need to kind of find an identity and stay true to it. If we're going to be a counter-attacking team this season, then I'm all right with that, as long as we're picking up points. I see the value in putting another body in the middle of the park particularly against Rangers, because you watch their games this season, they've just got so many guys that are so comfortable. They very, very, very rarely give up possession. So, put another body in there for me. I can't see a Hallberg or a Scott Allen having a kind of impact that would turn that around.
What's happening with Stevie Malin? Like, is he going to get back in it? Would you think, Gav? Like, he came obviously back for the St Johnstone game and played against Aberdeen, and then nothing. Well, again, Aberdeen was just the last game, but did he come on? Mind, I was in the pub, so I missed it.
He came on against the one, yeah.
So that's close. I'll just go. I'll just head to him now, right? My dinner's running anyway. So.
It's a strange one with Malin. I mean, Jack Ross clearly likes him. He said as much. Obviously, knows him from St Mirren times. But it seems like he's kind of stuck with Gogic and Newell, and then obviously Scott Allen missed the game. I don't know if he'll be back in time for Rangers. So I guess it's good we've got options there, but everyone's still saying we need to bring in another central midfielder. So What do you think on that, Liam?
On the
Malin.
subject of bringing a centre midfielder or Malin.
Malin
I
first.
think
Well, both, but Malin first.
Malin, I think to be honest, I think it might have been Dave that said it before. I think his best position could potentially be as a wide man rather than in the middle. I don't think he's going to get that number 10 jersey from Scott Hanlon or even Jamie Murphy when Allen's not available. So I don't want to see him playing in that kind of deeper role that he's been used in the past. And so I think if he's going to get in the team, it might be wide left. He's not. He's obviously got a lot of great things about his game, but for me, he just doesn't have the kind of the physicality or the kind of hunger to play that central midfield role in this country.
I agree, because I think the same about. That's what I think about Joe New. I think we've got too many central midfielders that are too soft. They've not got that, but they would be better on. But the problem is, I wouldn't say their wingers probably just left a 4 or left like a kind of narrower midfield, and then putting the ball in the box and cutting in and shooting and that. I think Newell and Malin and folk are going to be like maybe get abuse for this, because everybody seems to be absolutely loving John Newell now. It's fair enough. I think very decent in that, but he's saying his best position's the middle, whereas I think he's better a wee bit on the left.
I have to say, it impressed me at left wing back, but not so much the left wing.
Yeah, but I would agree with that. But I've just said that I don't think left wing is right either. So it would need to be. Say if we were playing a 5 across the middle, and he was the lefty, kind of the left hand side of a 5. I don't know if that would work either.
I don't know. Left to a 3, but aye. What are you going to say, Liam?
If you're left-footed and play on the left wing, you need to have you need to have a pace and a trick to get by someone. He's definitely not got the pace to go by someone comfortably new, and I've not seen him have many tricks in his locker. So for me, he's not a wide man. Whereas if he plays it in a wing back role, he's at least got someone up in front of him that he can, run past or run onto a ball. There's a left winger on the left with a left foot. You've kind of got to be a bit of a self-starter. I don't think he's got that in his game.
And with the transfer window being open, we've been asking everybody what they want. And I mean, obviously, we just sort of spoke about the midfield. Is that you? I mean, everyone seems to be saying central midfield. Is that the priority for you, or if you could only have one position, filled in this transfer window, who would you like to see? What kind of player would you like to see us bring in?
I'm not going to give you a different answer, I'm afraid. I think I'm exactly the same as everyone else. I think it's central midfield. I think it's a very specific type of central midfield player. But it's definitely a midfielder for me. It's a high energy kind of, don't like to use the term because it's a football manager term, but box to box midfielder that's going to get up and down and get in people's faces, but probably with a bit more of a slightly more attacking mindset than Gogic, whose role is very much to just sort of screen in front of the back four. That's the kind of player I'd like to see us go out and get, but it's difficult because I don't think there's a huge number of guys in England or on the continent that play that kind of role. It's a bit of a sort of Scottish thing, I think, playing that kind of sort of box to box role. So there's not a huge number of them available, but yeah, it's like that's definitely the position I'd like to see us go for. And maybe it is push the boat out and go and get one of the young guys like Alan Campbell or Ali McCann or one of those players, but we know Hibs, it's probably quite unlikely that they'll go for one of them.
Alan Campbell, I was speaking to Motherwell fan on Twitter, the guy that does the MFC podcast, and I was asking him because I was about Alan Campbell, and he said 20 million would need to pay for him. He's in the last year's contract though, so maybe we could negotiate that down a wee bit.
Yeah, I would take him in a heartbeat, and that's the type of player I want us to go and get to. But do you think it's a bit weird, Liam, that we were linked with Scott Fraser, for example, who doesn't seem to be that type of midfielder?
Aye, it is a bit weird, but I mean, I take it with a pinch of salt and its daily record, and it's the link was dismissed as quickly as we were linked with him, so I probably wouldn't read a huge amount into that. I'd expect that they know the kind of player we're looking at. If McCrory was the initial target and looking at the kind of player that we now know McCrory is from having seen him play, I think we'll be going for a similar kind of type to him. But like I say, there's probably just not a huge number of them that are out there. that you can go and get readily. I think the interesting thing is the English transfer window generally not shut until the 5th of October. I mean, there's still a fair bit of time, and the English clubs are just back playing now, so there's the possibility we might get someone from one of those clubs that's out of favour. I wouldn't be against that.
I think we're in a position where obviously we've got 2 tough games coming up, but we're winning games with the current squad we've got, and obviously we've seen the Aberdeen game how much we missed Gogic, but there's less of a panic. Yes, there's only 3-4 weeks left of the window, 3 weeks left, but still, like, we're not in as much of a hurry. Like, we need them now, otherwise we're not going to get the results. We're still getting the results with the current squad we've got.
It wouldn't have been an absolute disaster now if we didn't bring anyone else in, and it's not like desperate, but I think it's just what you're saying. It's just a luxury now, innit? If we're able to add, then good. I think we do need to add, but that's probably what Hibs are thinking. Wait for the right person.
Yeah, I mean, like Liam said, it wasn't a complete performance yesterday, and I think the Motherwell game and the Aberdeen game were a bit of a worry to me. How Scott Allen, Gogic and Newell, especially the Motherwell game, the midfield, Thea Campbell, O'Hara and Turnbull bossed that game. Had a lot of the possession. The 3 of them playing triangles around that midfield, and maybe Gogic, Newell and Allen, if given time, would gel. But I think we need somebody like Liam's saying, a bit more box to box. Somebody like a McCrory with a bit more bite about him. I mean, obviously Doherty would have been ideal, but fair play to the lad. He's made up his mind. He wanted to go to England, made that clear at Hibs, and fair play to him. Best of luck to him down at Hull. But that to me, that would have been the perfect signing, somebody like Doherty. That's who we need to be trying to identify, another player like that. But aye.
It is a bit frustrating that you're like, a player like McCrory, who we had in the door, like, just shove it at the line. Like, why are we going for somebody like, we could have had him? I know it might have been like him that end of the day, like, slowed things down in that for the move, but it's just annoying that it was so close. Like, to be, and that would have been our midfield in such a healthier place with just one addition.
Aye, but well, never mind. So obviously the Rangers game. How are you feeling about the Rangers game coming up, Liam?
It's difficult to get excited about the game when you can't go to it. But I think it's one of them. I feel expect Rangers to win the game. I think the way they're playing this season, they look like a marked improvement on last season. And to be honest, with the players they've got at their disposal, they probably should beat us. But we've got a chance. I think that, the way we're playing, I think the way we've set up the last few games, I think we've got a chance that we can hit them on the counter. We can get a goal. The difficult thing is, I think Rangers will score. So we'll probably have to score more than one to win the game. So it's going to be really tough. But it's 2 tough games. They're not a free hit, because no game's a free hit. But Jack Ross is not going to be judged on the next 2 games, I don't think, as long as he doesn't get.
As I say, it is by me. See if we get pumped by a few off Rangers, he's getting judged off me. You're going to need to take the Twitter password off me if Hibs get pumped.
I'll put a note to myself to possibly change it.
Yeah.
I mean, I think a lot of Heckingbottom got a lot of fans on his back from the Rangers game at Ibrox, and kind of struggled to come back for that. I mean, Jack Ross is in a much better position than Hecky was going into that game at Ibrox, but I think fans would worry if there was a big result. But obviously Rangers are playing really well. Like Liam, you said about scoring 2, they've yet to concede a goal this season, so that's not going to be an easy feat. But just sort of finishing up then, Liam, what's your score prediction for the game?
I've got to say something sort of positive. I'll go with a 1-1 draw.
Would you take that, Dave? You've been giving your action. Would you take 1 each?
I wouldn't take a draw at the moment, but at 2 o'clock I'll be wishing it was a draw. I can feel it in my body. I just didn't want to admit it. But I want to win. I'll never accept anything else.
And final question, Liam. I know we spoke about potentially getting a midfielder in 3 weeks to go until the transfer window shuts. Will we get? Do you see us getting somebody in before then?
I think we will. I think because we've identified that's the position we need someone. I think we will get someone. Whether he's a player that the fans can get excited about or not, I don't know. But I think we'll absolutely get someone in that position. I actually probably see a couple of bodies coming in. I think we'll get some defensive cover in as well, because I don't think McGregor and Gray are going to play a huge part this season. Albeit I think McGregor as part of a back three can definitely still do a job. But I think there'll be some kind of defensive cover that will come in as well.
And are we going to win one of the Scottish Cups?
2 opportunities this year.
I know, it's brilliant.
We basically got a buy into the final in one of them, didn't we?
Oh no. Edit that out.
All your Hearts mates are now just cropping that audio.
Okay, Matt, you've made your bed. You lie in it. If we get beat, I will remember this moment. If we get beat, that audio is getting played and everybody can blame Liam.
That's brilliant, Liam. Thanks again. You enjoy the rest of your night, and thanks for taking the time to speak to us.
Nice one, Gav. Cheers. See you later.
Cheers, man.
So our final call today is Stephen. How you doing, Stephen?
I'm good, Gav. Thanks. How are you guys?
Yeah, good.
Yeah, I'm good, mate. Cheers.
I understand you wanted to have a chat to us about the formations and stuff. I know you've obviously the St Mirren game. We played the 4-4-2 again. What's your thoughts been on us changing to the 4-4-2?
I feel the 4-4-2 it suits us and the players that are at the club. I feel that they're far more comfortable in the 4-4-2 rather than playing the 4-5-1 or the 4-4-3 system that was used in the St Johnstone and Aberdeen games. We look much more a threat going forward, and I think it just suits the players more. And obviously the strikers as well, having Nisbet and the 2 centre forwards on the park carry a threat going forward.
What do you think like the best formation is to get Scott Allen playing his best football again?
To get Scott, to be
hard
honest,
can he fit in that 4-4-2?
I don't think he can. I think you need legs in the middle. I think Newell and Godzic, I think they complement each other really well in there. And if for Scott Allen to come back, he would need to be in a free. I think he needs to sit behind the front foot. I don't think you can work in there with him with one up front. So I don't think it would fit into a 4-5-1. You'd have to get him in with a free in the midfield somehow and getting 2 strikers on the park. I don't know how it would fit in. Maybe a 3-5-2 with wing backs or something. But I'm not sure if we played that formation, you would get Boyle or Murphy into the team. I think they would have to drop out. I'm not sure Allen would fit into the team at the minute.
The 4-4-2's obviously we done really well with it against St Mirren yesterday, and Livingston. Obviously we played at that game, and Horgan was really good that day, and we got the big win. Then
that's right.
How do you see that 4-4-2 working against the Old Firm? Obviously that's the next 2 games.
It's a tough one because we might get outnumbered in the midfield there. It might be too open against the Old Firm, but you've got to go with it, in my opinion. It's worked so well. You maybe start off like that, and if we are getting overrun, you'd maybe need to change it later on in the match, maybe half time. See, you've got to go with it and see how it goes. The 4-4-2, you've got good pairings, good partnerships with the 2 centre halves, the 2 midfielders, and the 2 centre forwards. There's a good spine to the team there, and obviously you've got the wingers coming in, Murphy and Boyle as well. They're going to be a threat, getting the ball out to them and whipping in a ball and having two targets in the middle to aim for. I think we carry a real goal for it.
What's your thoughts been on the defensive improvements this season?
I thought we've a lot better. I think we're looking great. Godzic has really helped there. As a good shield in front of the back 4. He's really protecting Porteous and Hanlon. And obviously McGinn, he's been an outstanding signing. Him and Doig on the other side are getting forward. And I think it was McGinn, he had a wee assist there against St Mirren. He's been really important, both the fullbacks as well.
We were speaking to somebody else earlier on about Hanlon. Obviously I think the Rangers report done a thing about how Brian Porteous is right there for the Scotland manager and how he should potentially be calling them up. But is Hanlon being overlooked as well?
Potentially, I think he's been in the Scotland squads before, but I think he's been a bit of an unsung hero this season. He's really upped his game as from last season. I think he should be in the squad if you ask me. I mean, I don't see why you would play I know the lads at Man United, but why would you play him out of position and put him in the back three for the Scotland squad? You've got a ready-made player there like Paul Hanlon or young Porteous who would have slotted in there, and they wouldn't have let anybody down. I don't think. My main worry would be if one of the two lads got injured. Would be Hanlon and Porteous. We don't have a lot there. Obviously, McGregor's there, but I'm not sure how much he's got left in his legs to cover for the lads if one of them was out long term.
We're speaking to a few people about the transfer window and stuff like that, and a lot of people saying about midfielders and stuff. But like say McGregor, sort of the wheel on the cover, and obviously Jackson left. Doig can play there, but obviously then you lose him at left back. So what's your kind of? Would you like to see us bring a centre back in?
I think so. I think that would be my main target would be to try and get another centre half in. He'd be my priority. I'm not actually sure who, but another centre half, and if being greedy, maybe another forward as well. I know that would maybe hinder young Gullen and Shanley there, but you need forwards as well, I think. And maybe a defensive mid if being very greedy just to cover for Godjic as well. I know Hallberg's there too, but if Godjic's out of the team, then I think it opens up that midfield a bit more. We don't have enough protection.
Yeah, I think you're the same as me. I think we need, in an ideal world, with like a wee bit everything everywhere, just that depth in it, like.
Exactly.
Because
might be asking for too much in this climate that we're in now, but
this is the problem. So we just need to see what happens.
I hope so.
I think, like say, you're obviously Gullen and Shanley. They're two youngsters. I think. I personally, I was a bit concerned that we were playing that 4-4-2 like you say, and then we changed it to go one up top when Nisbet was injured, rather than putting Gullen in. So that maybe says, does he have the confidence in Gullen to be a starter? And if not, then if one of them's going to get injured or suspended, surely we need somebody that is ready to come in. And the fact that he played Drew Wright up top as well was a bit of a strange one. So obviously we've been asking everybody about this. You say about defensive midfielder. Is it sort of what is it? Just sort of somebody similar to Gogic in case Gogic gets similar injured, or would you like to see somebody that come in that's going to start in the midfield? Are you quite happy with Newell and Gogic as the two?
I'm quite happy to go with Newell and Godjic at the minute. I think they're probably the best two centre mids, and they just give each other a good balance with Godjic sitting and Newell pushing on and supporting the attackers. You've got a bit of depth with players pushing on with Malin and Allen there as well. So it would probably be cover for Godjic, but I don't know where that would leave Melker Hallberg. I'm not sure of his role in the team at the minute. I don't know if he's more a sitting player or if he's more a box to box. I've seen fixes of him in a sort of box to box role. I thought he looked quite decent, but as a defensive mid, I don't think he was too clever for me in there.
He's fell right down, hasn't he, since he came in? Like, was so promising, and then.
I mean, to me, like say, I think he's been used as a defensive midfielder, but he's suited more as a box-to-box midfielder. I think as soon as we go to the three-man midfield, it's Allen or Malin that seems to come in. I would like to see Gogic, Newell and Hallberg. I think that as a three, that could be quite balanced, especially me personally. I think we need to get people in the middle of the park. I understand what you're saying about the fact the 4-4-2 has been working, but the old firm, that's the three I'd like to see in the midfield. And I think
go for a free.
Hallberg showed that in the Livingston game when he came on as a sub and was given more rein to get forward. Obviously, he won the penalty for us in that game. He was quite good at bombing forward. So to me, that's where his better role. But we'll have to see if, like you say, Dave, he does seem to have fallen down the pecking order quite a bit.
Yeah, and I think I still look at Scott Allen as being a talent that. And it's like to the point where I think he needs to be on the park, because I think we need to try and get the best out of him. I don't know if I'm just holding on to past years. I'm a BM, but there's just a bit of quality there that I think that we're lacking. I know Newell's playing well in that, but I think I would definitely rather see Scott Allen playing than no playing. He's exciting for me.
Yeah, he can win you a game on a sixpence, so he can do nothing all game, and that wee bit of magic, put somebody in and then go. It can be the 3 points for you. It's like he says, it's fitting them in if you can get in.
I want to watch that. I want to watch good football players doing their thing, and I hope that he's just not had the best start to the season, and we can get him in there somehow.
Fingers crossed. The thing for me is if you get Allen in there and go with a midfield three, do you drop somebody up top? Do you stick with the two up top and go 3-5-2, or would you go back to the 4-5-1, 4-3-3 with the two wide men supporting Big Doidge up top?
The thing is, when Nisbet and Doidge have both been fit, they've played. Like Doidge didn't play the first game of the season because he was just back. He'd only just started training, and obviously he came on in that game. And then he's played every game since, and then Nisbet was injured. But once he's been back fit, so it seems that Jack Ross wants to play the two of them together,
a proper partnership.
So. Yeah. So how the only sort of would be that 3-5-2 for Allen as well. But it'll be interesting to see how we line up against the Old Firm. So what's your kind of thoughts going into these two games? I mean, look at Rangers first. Obviously, great start to the season for them. What have you thought of Rangers so far this season, Stephen?
They've looked really strong. Yeah, I'm really impressed with them. I think it's going to be a very difficult task for us. I'd probably get your hand for a point at the minute, but we're at home. Just go for it. Play to our strengths. Just get the ball down and get the ball out wide. Get the ball, feed it into Boyle and Murphy, and just go for it. Get the ball into the box. Hopefully we can take the 3 points from the game. If not, I would love a point.
I just remembered we were speaking to a few people about Murphy and stuff. Murphy can't play. He's on loan.
That's right. Yeah, his first season's on loan, and then the second season's that's right. He's signed. So Jay Wright will have to slot in there if.
Yeah,
we've just spoke about Murphy I think I'm sure he's been mentioned for the last 2 hours, and he can't play. We just completely forgot.
Oops.
No, I'm forgetting that his first season's on loan, isn't it? And the second season he's signed permanently. I think that's how it's working with him. So you're right. He won't be able to play against his parent club.
It'll be interesting to see if they do, like say, with him not being able to play and with Allen potentially back, if they change it. But it's good to see. I think it's good to see the fact that we've got options in terms of the formation and players that can play different positions. The fact that we've been able to change it mid game, that Kilmarnock game really impressed me. The fact that we played like 4 different formations throughout the game. Without changing a personnel, that was really impressive. So hopefully more of that. But yeah,
it's good that we can have that conversation in it, how we're debating whether Newell's better on the left, the right, or in the middle, or can Malin play left? Can Malin play?
It's like how do we get these effective players into our team rather than are they good enough? Which is good conversations like we've unfortunately been having in the past. But so we'll finish up there, Stephen. Just final thing from you then. What's your score prediction for the Rangers game?
3-2 Hibs.
Love it.
Love that.
I'll take that. Hopefully for that. If not, I think it might be a 1-1 draw, but hopefully we get the win.
Like I was saying earlier on, the Rangers haven't conceded yet, so 3 might be a big ask, but we'll see how we get on. Right, well, enjoy the rest of your night, Stephen. Thanks for taking the time to speak to us.
Thanks for the call, guys. All
Cheers.
the best.
Cheers, mate.
Bye.
Cheers. Bye.
So that's us at the end of the podcast, folks. Thanks for listening. Thanks to all the guys who came on today. That was really good. We do need to do this more often. I apologise for being a lazy sod and not doing it more.
How you been getting on anyway?
Aye, good. You never asked me at the start. It'll take you long enough.
I know, and then you moaned at me for it, so I've just started asking it.
Do you know what I've actually been doing? I mean, you do know because I've been texting you throughout. I've been binge watching the All or Nothing Tottenham Hotspurs. I've watched 5 episodes now. Have you finished it? Or the 6 episodes that are up?
I think I've got 1 minute to go.
Because I was looking, and the Man City one was 8 episodes. So I don't know. I wonder if there's 2 episodes that have been recorded but not released yet, but they're still being produced because of the whole COVID.
Not a clue.
Whether, but I'll interested to see whether that. But anyway, we're rambling here about it's really good. The Spurs documentary. Check it out. They were rubbish yesterday though.
I know, it's kind of after I watched the Spurs documentary. Fired a couple of Spurs players in my fantasy team thinking,
me too.
Oh, this is good. Like, look at them, look how good they're. And nope. Wild card week 2. Straight out.
Yeah, I'm definitely to make a few changes, especially with Man United and Man City players coming back in.
Yeah.
Or is it the first 2 weeks they miss?
Just 1 week.
1 week.
The back second week.
Do you know Man United played Aston Villa, who they were meant to play? They played them the same day. In a friendly.
In a friendly.
Aye. Just play the game.
Yeah. That's shocking, that.
Aye. Anyway, so you got much planned for the rest of the night? I know you're getting back for your dinner.
I'm starving, mate.
Mm.
I'm going to eat my dinner.
Aye.
So, press end it, press stop, press stop recording right now,
So you can go eat.
so I can go and eat.
So I did want to ask you though, Dave.
No, not interested.
Right, we'll finish up there so Dave can go eat. Thanks again to all the guys for coming on. Like I say, we'll put we'll kind of mention this in a couple of weeks. We'll do one. Try and do the first week every month. We'll try and do a phone in. So we'll get one again soon. We'll get into the swing of it, and we'll kind of mention it on the podcast before. And like I say, we'll promote it there. I'm trying to drag this out as much as I can to wind up Dave.
I'm going to go. I'm just going to get on and walk out. So last thing I'm going to say is fuck the Rangers. Come on.
Enjoy the weekend, the game at the weekend, guys. Follow us at HFC Talk. Subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. All that nonsense. And fuck the Rangers. Can't say fuck the Hearts. They're not in the league anymore.
Nah, you can though. You can still
fuck the Hearts as well.
Still allowed.
Cheers.